Good afternoon. My name is Genevieve O'Donoghue, Director of Parenting at Operation PAR. I want to welcome you today to the Focus on Parents, our second Focus on Parents virtual community conversation. Today, we will be talking about back to school, mental health, and children being at home while you're trying to work. So I am going to throw it to Paige Tucker from Be Your Best You LLC. She's going to be our moderator, and you take it over, Paige.
All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Focus on Parents. I am your moderator today. I am owner and operator of Be Your Best You LLC, coaching and consulting agency. I'm also a facilitator by trade, so I'm super excited to facilitate this conversation. Our first one was super exciting, so I'm ready to get into this conversation. So let me introduce you to our panelists. So we'll start with Ms. Daphne Lampley.
Hi, I am the Vice President of Prevention Services with Operation PAR. I've been with PAR 28 years working in the field of prevention. I'm also a mom. I have a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old. And so this has been a very interesting time getting ready for school.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Ariel Williams.
Hi, I'm Ariel. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I am a therapist, for the lack of a better term. I practice private practice here in St. Petersburg, Florida, with Smile Psychology. I also work for a managed care organization as well. So I've been doing therapy for about 9 years now, and I work with children and adults, adolescents, and pretty much every age group in between I've had some experience with.
Awesome, thank you. Ms. Tori Edwards.
Hi, I'm Tori. I'm the Director of Engagement and Children at Allendale United Methodist Church. I run some of our engagement events and our children and families programming at Allendale. I'm also a mom. I have 3 daughters, 25 and 2. So this transition during COVID to all being home and working from home has definitely been interesting for our family.
All right, thank you. Ms. Caitlin Christian.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, and I work at Operation PAR as a Women's Village counselor. But my role for being here today is I'm also certified to teach yoga. I completed my 200-hour certification, and I'll be doing the chair yoga portion today.
All right, thank you so much. And last but not least, Ms. Kelly Christian. Kelly, you're muted.
You're muted.
Hello, I'm Kelly Christian. I'm from Operation PAR. I work as a prevention specialist and teach parenting. We use a curriculum that's wonderful called Nurturing Parenting, and I've been with PAR for 7 years. And some of the curriculum has helped me know a little more information about how to help our children manage stress, and that's what I'll be sharing today.
All right, thank you so much. This is our panel. So we're going to get our conversation started. Kelly and Caitlin will be joining us a little later to do some exercises with us. But the rest of us will be we'll be starting this conversation. So my first question is, as we talk about back to school and COVID and all the crazy that's happening, what are parents choosing? There are 3 options. What are you finding that parents are choosing? And anyone can answer.
Okay, I'll start. What I've heard from Pinellas County Schools is that there are some parents who are sending their children to brick and mortar, and some have taken all 3 options. So there are families that have accepted across the board all 3 options. I believe the majority of students are going back into the classroom. And what I've heard, and even as I weighed this decision for myself, there's so many factors for everyone as individual families. As we are concerned about the coronavirus, I found myself also weighing for my student who will be entering high school for the first time, his classes, his unique program that he's going to be a part of, and how he would be able to maximize that, his maturity level with being able to, as a high school student, whether or not he can keep on a mask. And I think that a lot of parents have weighed a lot of issues, and depending on their child's age and their family situation. So I made the decision on the very last day, a couple hours before the deadline. I actually put in and decided for him to go to brick and mortar. And I did that based on his class level, and not knowing whether or not all of his classes would be available in the online option. And so that's where I fell in this. And then my daughter, who is a college student, she will be going back to school because she's comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that. She goes to a very, very small school, so few hundred students as opposed to a few thousand. And so the school has made a lot of changes on campus, including making classes available online if students need that. So that's what I'm seeing, that's what I've experienced personally, and that's kind of what I've heard from people. And one of my coworkers decided that one of her children is going on campus, one of them is not, because that child is not as comfortable. And so the decision has been, I think, difficult for people based on their family situations, on top of trying to figure out the virus thing.
And I would imagine, like, for some parents also, as they're seeing other schools already like starting and then closing down the same day, I think since school started, there's been a 40% rise in COVID cases among students, children. And so as you start to see those things and it gets closer to your date, I could imagine that parents are starting to rethink the options that they have.
Right. Personally, I don't have any children who are school age. I do. My son is 3 years old and he is in a preschool, and he's been going to school through this entire pandemic. The days that he was out was because the school was actually closed for in-service days. So I feel like, and I can say I feel like, because I'm not in the predicament right now, but I feel like I may have been one of the parents to choose to send him back to school, because I'm also taking into consideration that I have to work. And as you've already seen, my kids have been in and out, and we've only been on for a few minutes. And it's been a struggle through this entire time, having my daughter, who's almost a year old, with me day in and day out on all of my calls, because she is needing me to do something. And not that, I hate to say, not that I truly care what other people think, but you do get the sideway looks from people who are on your Zoom calls when your child is climbing on you or something is happening. And so you feel the responsibility of, what am I affecting my job by having my children with me? So I have to think about my job. I do want to think about their health and their safety, because that is important, but what do I need? And then of course, something of course we'll talk about later, but my mental health and my sanity, I need a break. And so when I do take my son to school, that's a break. I have my daughter, but it's a break for me from him. And it also gives him the opportunity to run and play and engage and do other things, because the things that we would do prior to COVID, the activities and things we would do on the evenings and weekends, we can't do anymore. And so having him home while working, while having my 1-year-old, I wouldn't be able to engage him in that type of stuff. So that's kind of where I stand on it, as far as him, still going to school, and potentially, if he were in school, going back. So Tori, what about you?
We have ultimately decided for our 5-year-old who is entering kindergarten this year to do virtual school. I think that what it would take for us to feel comfortable sending her to school is above what she's capable of at 5, keeping her hands out of her mouth. She has 2 loose teeth right now, and so she's constantly like wiggling her teeth, and we have practiced wearing masks as a family, and so she's gotten used to that. But I think for us in particular, kindergarten has been a hard choice, because of at her VPK program that she was in last year. She, I think there was like 13, maybe 14 kids in her class. It's a very small school, very small setting, small group of kids. So I think that we felt more comfortable in that small setting, but in kindergarten, you're going to be crossing paths with the entire elementary school, and she's not quite big enough to understand social distancing and wear masks. And we practice good hand washing skills, but there's only so great that they can be with personal hygiene at 5.
Right.
And so we have decided to do virtual school with her, which has brought on a whole host of other concerns for our family. We're doing Florida virtual and haven't gotten placed in a classroom yet. So it's been kind of hard to prepare for the school year. We don't know when it's going to start because families got enrolled after July 17th won't get placed until September. So we're kind of just rolling with the punches here and trying to figure out how my husband and I are going to adjust our work schedules. We're both working from home right now. And it's been a lot, our oldest is home, and she's starting classes at SPC virtually next week. And then we also have our teeny tiniest, Naomi, she's 2, home because everyone else is working from home and being educated from home. And so we just felt most comfortable with just everybody being home then, rather than having one person in our family still going out. So I think that's been kind of the consensus with the families that I work with in my ministry, our children's ministry, that, the much younger kids, like preschool age kids, where you're kind of in their little groups at small preschools, or the bigger kids who can follow social distancing, who can keep their masks on, who can wash their hands properly. It seems a little more comfortable in those zones, but in the middle of those teenies that are in big school now, but not great at all the other stuff yet, it's been a challenge to figure out, what's best for our family and how do we make it possible.
Right. Absolutely. Ariel, in terms of some of the families that you've been seeing, just in therapy, has this come up? Have they talked about it? So, some anxiety around, sending their kids back to school, how it feels to have to make this choice?
Actually, I think overall it's just been trying to manage the mental health of the family unit more so is the focus, because everybody's home. So when everybody's home, it highlights some dysfunction that may be present in certain relationships, whether it is spousal relationships or child-parent relationships. Those things, now that we're all together, we're seeing things more, right? Because everything around us has slowed down. And so that has been a topic. And sure, it's stressful too, because I think a lot of parents aren't thinking about their children's mental health sometimes, because it's like, oh, I'm so stressed out because, I don't get to go to brunch with the girls, or, I can't go play this round of golf like I want to because I have to worry about endangering my children. But children also don't get to do their normal activities. They can't go to parties with their friends. They're not going to the playground like they used to. So those are things to I think to consider. And then also with school is a big deal as well, because school looks really different right now. Because if you are choosing to do the virtual option, I think Pinellas County is allowing some to do virtual for the first 9 weeks of school. Going through that change. And then there's also, if you choose to send your child back to school, I think the uncertainty of what's happening in the school system right now is that there is no set out plan yet as to what happens if your school has an outbreak, if they have so many cases. Is the school going to shut down, and then, your child has to be home? So I think parents are thinking about the stress of that piece as well, because parents have to work. So some parents don't have the option to keep their child home. And if this happens, the uncertainty is stressful, and it's stressful for not only the parent, but the child, the adolescent, the teenager as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I can see how it can be super stressful for the family, especially, if the kids are physically going to school, what happens if the kids bring COVID back home? And then if you're looking at a single parent home or a home where one parent is working, what happens if that parent gets COVID, right? So I think there's so many things that families are having to really consider. And I think it's important us as a community to just be supportive of whatever that decision is, because we never know why someone's making that decision, right?
Definitely.
So, I can, people could probably be like, oh, well, never, I won't do that. But what happens if you have no options? You have zero options for your children. You're the only person working. You're an essential worker, so your job requires you to be out physically. And then who's going to stay home with the kids? It's not like, when we were growing up, you could leave your kids at home at 10 and 11. You can't do that anymore.
Right.
So, I feel like parents are being faced with so many decisions in such a small period of time. How do we keep our family safe overall? And
I also think that because of the population of families that we work with child offering parenting services, we work with child welfare families. There are a lot of parents who don't have custody, so grandparents and aunts and uncles and everybody else has custody. And so my concern is also for the grandparents who have custody, or the elderly people that have custody of these children making that decision. They need the break, so they do want to send the kids back. And so some of them are thinking, this disease is fake, or whatever the situation is, and they send them back. Or you have the high school students or the middle school students who are thinking, what if I get sick at school and bring it home to my caregiver? I saw something on the news yesterday. There was a man who had I guess his 3 children, because his wife passed away, I think 5 or 6 years ago. Well, he ended up getting COVID and passing away. So now his 2 older daughters are now caring for their son. But it's things like that a lot of people are concerned with. I've seen a lot of conversations on social media and had conversations with other people where that is the concern. What do you do? Am I making the right decision? Are people judging me because of this?
Right.
Who do I talk to, and should I care what people say? But I do, a lot of people are kind of up in the air as to what to do and afraid to say something.
Right.
Or they don't have anybody to talk to.
Right.
Right. So as we talk about that, what resources are there for parents when they have these questions? Because it seems like, parents aren't as they're like mistrusting the school system right now. There seems like to be like this miscommunication. So what options are available for parents? What can they do when they have these questions and they need answers?
I think turn to community organizations and family members and trusted friends. It's more so of a conversation, because the old saying, control what you can control, because we really can't control what the school board is doing.
Right.
They're gonna, because I think it was Hillsborough County that said, hey, look, we'll do these first 4 weeks online. And then it was a lawsuit, and now they can't hold it up. You know, it changes daily.
Right.
So it's very difficult to trust the school system. And
Right.
this is who you're trusting to educate your child. So I definitely think look within your community to see what resources are available. I do know some parents have chosen to apply for more scholarships to send their child to private schools because private schools have a little bit more stability and more protocols in place. That provides another problem too, because even if you get a scholarship for parents who have lower income, they still have to pay for uniforms. They still have to. It's a cost associated with it. So now they have another bill. So it's just really honing in on what's best for you and your family, because the school board can't decide that for you. Your therapist, your community members, none of us can decide what's best for your household. So I think having some mental clarity and taking care of yourself, doing some self-care so you can make those hard decisions for yourself and your family.
And something that I heard a couple of parents say and offer, and you ladies can give your thoughts on this, were families working together. And so there's this article talking about creating social bubbles, right? So it's I only come to your house, you only come to mine, and that's it. This is how we're going to survive COVID-19 together. So some parents have talked about this is how we're going to parent our children, right? So, I parent the kids. I mean, not parent, teach our kids. So I homeschool the kids while you're at work, and then vice versa, and they create this little community. What do y'all think of that?
I think that's a great idea if, you can find a family to connect with. And I think it, falls in line with what Ariel was just saying, that because we're all just so unique and the family dynamics are so unique, I think that people should have as many options as possible. And so if there's a family that you're close with and that works, and both the guardians in both families are feel like they can teach their children. I stopped doing math with my son when he was in 5th grade, so so you have to, that's the other issue too, is how able are you? And I feel like I can do math okay, but by 5th grade he was like, well, Mom, that's not the way she said to do it. I'm like, okay, and so he's got it. So he's he's done algebra 1 already, so I think he did okay. So I think that is something definitely that could be an option. And I think one of the things that we have to remember is that all of us, the school system, our jobs, our employers, us as individuals, we are all trying to figure out this thing. And so, we get frustrated because these different systems may not have the answers, but how can they, given this environment? It's so, it's a lot to handle. And I would encourage parents, our county does have a parent advocate. And I would say that if parents have questions, guardians have questions, that they should feel free to reach out to the parent advocate for Pinellas County Schools, and talk through some issues, maybe participate in some of the opportunities that they have to kind of educate yourself about what's going on. I agree with what Ariel said, reaching out to community organizations, finding those friends with whom you can share teaching, or share a play date, or share a respite day. I think that's just such a great idea, because part of the anxiety is, knowing where people have been, and or not knowing where they've been, and feeling comfortable. So I think that as parents, we really have to look at all of our resources, and the school system is a resource as well. There are resources, there are people there who are dedicated to assist parents and help answer questions. even about the choices, you know, that we are deciding between. And so it is a stressful situation because there are so many avenues to look at, and there are just still so many unknowns. I mean, that really is for all of us. There are just so many unknowns. And so, you know, we have to trust that people are doing the best that they can, given the circumstance. And so when, you know, the school district is mandated to open their buildings, I don't know what else they can do,
Right.
except that, you know. So they're trying to do their best they can with that. And yet with that, I don't think that means that everybody needs to go to the building. Again, you have to figure out what's going to be best for you and for your peace of mind. You know, you have to be able to settle on something that you can really settle into and not be living with a constant stress every day. And so that, you know, it has been difficult to achieve that, and sometimes it changes, you know.
Right. So we've talked about just parents' choice, some of the feelings, fears, also parents feeling like they're the only ones that have to make these decisions of their kids going back to school because they have to go to work. But we have identified that, you know, this is something that many people are facing. So it's important for us as a community to be as supportive we can in so many ways. And so as we transition, you know, I can only imagine how this affects, you know, the family's mental health, as Ariel has touched on. So what are some ways that parents and kids can manage their stress about returning back to school, or how do they find balance by doing school virtually?
I think definitely having designated areas if they're choosing to do virtual school. Having designated areas in your home, and this can go for parents who work from home because it's easy to, when everything is mixed together, business, home, the boundaries get crossed, the relaxation is harder. So if available, you know, this is school corner, this is your work corner. So that way, you know, you can still have boundaries within the home if everything is all in one. Are, you know, having those conversations and making them fun if your child is going back into the school setting about what's safe, you know, what can you do to help protect yourself, and hygiene and different things of that nature. And also still keeping up with your family time, like safely. If there are things that you do as a parent to take care of yourself, continue to do that, because I say you have to take care of the woman, or you have to take care of the man first before you can be the good mother and the good dad, right? You have to make sure you have something to pour out of. So make sure you're pouring into yourself as an individual so you can be the best parent that you can. So keeping up with your self-care, making sure your children have their outlets, because some of them are involved in extracurricular activities that are not available. I think today, Florida High School Athletic Association agreed to start their season normal August 24th, but each individual school district can decide whether or not that's going to happen or not. So they're still up in the air. So if your child is somebody who played football, basketball, you know, cheerleading, track, whatever, make sure they still, maybe they go outside and exercise. Keep up with some sort of schedule for them so they can keep up with their self-care as well. I think that's most important in managing the stress and anxiety of all of this, because there's so many unknowns. So the one thing that's not unknown is your house and how you conduct yourself within those walls. So making sure you can keep as much routine as possible that seems normal within this new normal, so to speak.
Something else that's kind of social distancing has kind of been like the social isolation, emotional isolation. So something that I've seen done really well is virtual support. You know, like there are sometimes it's hard to feel like it can feel lonely making these decisions and trying to figure out what's best for your family. But there are some really great Facebook groups. There's Pinellas County parents of elementary school or elementary middle school, high school, you can look up your child's specific school and see if there's a Facebook support group. There's a Pinellas County Safe to Reopen advocacy group where parents watch the school board meetings together and dialogue on how we can best advocate for the kids in our county. So I found, for me personally, and with some other families that I've worked with, that those kinds of groups can be spaces where we don't feel so isolated, and we can feel that connection, and sometimes have something, get more information and have something practical that we can do together as a community, rather than just trying to balance this all by ourselves.
I agree. And another thing I've seen people do is just utilizing the beauty of being virtual. So, like doing virtual dinner parties and virtual happy hours and virtual play dates and things like that. Like, sometimes, I mean, it's better than nothing. Although when COVID first started, and before we had to use Zoom for everything, my friends and I, we would like meet on Saturdays and we would have our food and we would take pictures and share recipes and play games and have thought-provoking conversations. And then when we started using like Zoom for like everyday life, and it was like, I really don't want to see you on Zoom. But even still, like, because it's been so long since we've been able to interact with people, sometimes it's just good to be able to do that. I've actually been to a Zoom party where we actually had a DJ and we played games. So there's ways to, have outlets. It may not replace actually being in the same room with your family and friends, but it's better than feeling like you have to just be isolated. So I think people, when we say social distancing, it's more so physically distancing, but remaining socially connected. And I think that's the piece sometimes that we miss. So it's important that we still try to stay socially connected.
Right. And I think I agree also with what Ariel said with the movement part. In the beginning, it was just, okay, I'm socially distancing, and so I'm in the house. And I think everybody has become a Betty Crocker, or, they're doing some kind of cooking or baking, or something is happening. And for myself, I realized, I was like, okay, I need to get out the house. Because again, it's me and my daughter. I dropped my son off. It's us. My husband is out of town. And so it's like, okay, what do I do? And so I have committed to myself to walk every morning. And so we go for a morning walk, and, just getting outside is like, it's 1,000 degrees outside, but
yes,
we're still getting outside. And so we choose to go earlier than later. And so when my son is home on Saturdays and weekends, like, I've created almost a water park in our backyard. We have a water table, and we have a splash pad thing, and stay off of Amazon while you're at home. But maybe not, because then we have a mini pool. And so we just kind of run the water and let them play, because it gets us out the house and it gets him moving. And we cool off at the same time. So finding ways, creating ways. There are so many different ways and things to do. And like you said, if Paige, you said the virtual parties or the activities, there are so many new, if you Google like virtual activity for Zoom meeting, people play hangman and scavenger hunts and categories and all kinds of different things that people can do in order to stay engaged. I literally had hosted a birthday party for my 86-year-old mother-in-law last night. And it was fun. I mean, she's not technologically savvy, but we had my mother and some people set her up, and we were able to do that. And I think families need to continue to do that.
Absolutely. And also, like you said, going outside, we have so many parks and nature trails that it's like, I mean, it's amazing. We're so fortunate to live where we live in Florida. So I think that also becoming, getting more in touch with nature. I hated going outside before COVID. Like, I would go to the park, but that was it. But to like get me to like go in the woods with bugs and all of that, like, no, never. but now I love it. Like being able to go out, one, just being outside when it's not like scorching, and just looking at the water. So I like going to the beach as well, but I really like hiking. It's so relaxing, it's peaceful. You really get to clear your mind and you're getting exercise. So I definitely encourage parents to do that. It's so much, it's a great opportunity to like for the kids to just kind of run around and tire themselves out. But we have so many of these like nature trails and parks, and a lot of them are free. And the ones that aren't, it's probably like maybe like $3 or $4 per car to get in the park. But and then they have camping too. I've never been camping, but I think it would, hey, why not try it? But it's so many cool things that we can do. Because if you think about it, you know, when we were growing up, all we had was outside. We didn't have all these things. And so it's a lot of these places are extensive enough for you to be able to get out without like really coming into contact with people. But yeah, I think just really being creative in trying to, you know, maintain that balance is really important.
Right. I think a lot of these, and I may be skipping ahead a little bit only because I know Paige's agenda, but a lot of these are healthy coping skills that we've talked about. There are a lot of unhealthy coping skills that people have been, you know, taking advantage of, I guess is the word. Again, because we work with Operation PAR, you know, we substance abuse and mental health, but the substance abusing part, you know, a lot of people are doing that, and increased drinking. I know, you know, you see the running memes and the running jokes on Facebook where people are taping their tea bag to the outside of their coffee cup and pouring the wine in it, and, you know, just you making fun, but some people aren't making fun. I mean, Ariel, I don't know if you have any other or additional coping skills, I guess, that we can give to families or parents to use during this time.
A lot of them are choosing that. You know, and the thing is, people will say, and I sort of do it in my therapy, and it may be a more eccentric approach, is that I encourage individuals to find what works for them, that's healthy. Because I can tell you, read, I can tell you to go walk, I can tell you, hey, call a family member, I can tell you to do a virtual hangout with your friends, but sometimes that's just not good enough. And it doesn't work for everybody because, you know, if you're not getting adequate sleep and insomnia is present, that's stressful. If so, you really have to dedicate yourself. And that's why I always preach about self-care. And if you didn't have a self-care routine prior to COVID-19 happening, I encourage you to find one, because what my self-care does for me may be totally different from what yours does for yourself. And so I encourage you to look into those hobbies that you, like Paige was talking about, that you never wanted to do before, because we are in new times. A lot of people, their self-care is traveling. You can't travel right now. So, you know, you can't travel as freely as you want to. So maybe think about, you know, making travel scrapbooks from the places you've gone, that closet you wanted to organize, you know, do those things, because that's a form of self-care as well, clearing your space. And I think a lot of people have been doing that. They've been doing home improvement. Or if you're in the search of, I want to buy a house, maybe looking at your finances, if you're able to sort of come up with a plan for that, because that's self-care as well. So taking care of, I encourage people to take care of some of the things that we put off when our life was really busy. That's a form of self-care, because those were things that I really want to do this for myself, but, you know, I couldn't do it because I didn't have time. So those things I do encourage. Like, there is more time to work out. I'm seeing a lot of people maybe getting a little bit lazier because we're home so much. So it does take a little extra effort to come up with a routine that works for you. But I encourage you to have an accountability buddy whether it be your spouse, your partner, your child, your friend, anybody that you can call and say, okay, we're doing this together, you know, let's hold each other accountable. So just thinking about what works for yourself as an individual, because what your friend or your family member is doing may not work for you, and make sure it's healthy. It's a really healthy coping habit, and nothing that can cause you to, you know, develop more serious substance abuse issues, because those are very prevalent right now.
And then what are things that parents can do for their kids to manage stress? What would you say are some creative ways for parents to do that? Because I think, one, how can parents identify that their kids are stressed? So, like, what are some signs that parents should look for in stress in their kids? And then what are some ways they can help them manage that?
I think the acting out behaviors in the home, the frustrations, crying spells, children can be shut in and isolated in their rooms as well. And recognizing that and not being reactive, but rather being accepting to, hey, look, you know, just like me, I want to scream. So they're younger and they might be screaming because they're frustrated at what's going on. So just like I think Guinevere was saying, you know, she created like Adventure Island in her backyard. Being more creative with the activities that you're planning for your child, if that is what you're able to do. But having those activities in the house, having those projects, you know, because children are missing out on, you know, one of the big things parents I've gotten is I couldn't give my child his birthday party. Oh my goodness. And that was a big deal for a lot of kids when it was first happening. Like, it's my 10th birthday, I can't have it, or my whole senior year is gone. And so a lot of parents you saw got creative with drive-by prom, drive-by graduations, drive-by birthday parties, you know. And so if those are things that you're able to do, join in that wave to keep your children enthused about their accomplishments still. And even treating virtual school, I've been seeing online, like on Facebook and on Instagram, other school districts have started school. So parents are still doing those cute first day of school pictures, even though they're at home virtually now. So still keeping up with the milestones and making them a big deal, just like they used to be, I think is very important to help encourage children.
Yeah, I think that those are great tips for families for sure. And so with that, we are going to actually have Kelly come and talk to us about helping children manage stress. She's going to show a video and walk us through some steps. So thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. So yes, I want to share a video that is called Just Breathe. And it is by Julie Bayer Salzman. And in the video, it is really giving children a voice of what they are learning with how to deal with stress, how to deal with anger, frustration, and we'll talk more about it after it shows. But I'm going to share my screen and find it. I had it. Sorry for my delay. Technology and me are a little challenged sometimes. So I'm seeing it on my screen and I'm going to have it on your screen in just a minute. Share. Okay, y'all are seeing it, right? Okay, so here we go.
I get really mad when my brother hits me a lot. I don't like it when you say you don't want to play with me. When I'm mad, my brain can get a headache and it can start hurting. Your blood keeps pumping because you're like really mad. You start to get sweaty because you're getting really, really mad. And then when you start getting really mad, you turn red. When your body can't really control yourself, mad just takes over your body. I just get out of control. It's kind of like if you had a jar and then the jar would be your brain and then you put glitter in the jar and that would be how you would feel. If you shook up the jar and the glitter went everywhere, that would be how your mind looks. And it's like spinning around and then you don't have any time to think. And you sometimes punch stuff and people when you don't really mean it. When I get angry, I feel it in my heart. I really don't like when I get angry. The amygdala really reacts, but the prefrontal cortex tries to keep it down. When I feel like I want to, get really angry and yell, I just sometimes, take deep breath. First you find a place where you can be alone, then you find some way to relax and calm down. When I need to calm down, I take deep breaths. I breathe in through my nose. Sometimes I close my eyes or just take deep breaths. It's calming down, it's not moving. It's slowing down and then it stops. And the heart pumps slow and then it goes into your brain. It's like all the sparkles are at the bottom of your brain. My brain slows down and then I feel more calm and then I'm ready to speak to that person.
All right. So our children are very capable of learning and expressing their ways to cope. And wasn't it amazing? The one child was telling us about the brain parts and knowing how to breathe. And, especially with wearing masks coming up, and they're going, that really feels limiting to our breathing. So when they can learn to use that and breathe and calm themselves, it's going to be a great skill for them. I also have some information about, you probably noticed on there, the bottle that they were talking about and the glitter, and you can make one of those yourselves. It's called a calm down bottle, and it's just any bottle that you can use, recycle, from water bottles to shampoo bottles, and it's Most of it usually involves clear glue and warm water. Remember the warm part because I've messed up with not doing the warm part. Adding glitter, adding food coloring as color, and when you mix all that up and then make sure you glue the lid back on so you don't have messes and spills because they will try to take it off. But that is a wonderful thing to just sit and watch. And I love the illustration of the glitter getting all shook up and mixed up. And that's often how we feel. And our children really relate to visual things. And when they can see this and see it all centering down to the bottom, it works for them. It gives them a real concrete thing to look at and be calm with. We can also make stress balls. Stress balls are really fun using a balloon and a funnel, as you see there. And in the picture, it's baking soda, but you can put anything you want inside that balloon that will fit through that tunnel vision there. But rice works, flour, cornstarch, sand, beans. Sometimes textures can be really good with our children. It's concrete for them to feel the texture and the balloon and squish and squeeze that. It talks about making sure you get as much air out of it as you can before you tie it shut. You can draw faces on the balloon, and it's a great stress ball. It's small, it's compact, and you can, tuck it away in a pocket for when you need it and not be using it as a distraction. So squishing and squeezing that stress away. Another idea is to create a peaceful picture. Visualization, our children need concrete things to look at. Telling them to close their eyes and picture a calm water. The imagination, yes, they have wonderful imaginations, but sometimes they need a picture as well. And when they've created that picture themselves, it's even more meaningful. The pictures could be of nature. You could cut them out from magazines or, print them on the computer, print them out and cut them out and create a collage of colors or pictures that make you calm, and hang that up and have it somewhere to go to and find your quiet space and get calm. Another idea is grounding, and this is a coping skill that we often teach with people that are using substances or experiencing stress. So we've got to get ourselves grounded, and grounding is just turning your attention away from the stressor and focusing on the present moment. Just be in the now. And grounding tools can be as simple as a broken shell on the beach. And in the picture, those shells have ridges, which is a texture, and our children can run their fingers over that texture. This is, again, something that could be kept in their pocket. Make sure it has smooth edges, and having that in their hand to hold or to use to rub against the texture of the shell, it's going to get them grounded and focused on what is here, what is present, what is right now. Also, this could be another grounding exercise to do, is relate to Spidey here and use our Spidey senses. And when we're doing that, we can ask their children to get very still and quiet and become aware and ask them slowly and calmly, what do you see around you? And then what sounds do you hear? It could be something as simple as the fan blowing in the background, but just becoming aware of all that's going on around us. What do you smell right now? Maybe there's a candle, maybe there's flowers. What taste is in your mouth? Or what taste do you wish was in your mouth? You know, something sweet, or imagine that lemon and how your mouth would feel. And what do you feel with your fingers? It could be the chair that you're sitting in or the material on your shirt. But those things are going to help them become aware of the present moment and get grounded, focused on the actual moment that they're in rather than the stressor. And the last thing here is talking to them about being rigid and being flexible, because a lot of things are happening now that they just can't control and they don't like. And so if you were to compare it to a popsicle stick is very rigid and it doesn't give. And say you have a situation with your child where they're really missing grandma and they really want to give grandma a hug, but they can't right now. So they can get mad and angry and all bent out of shape about it and be rigid. But when we're rigid and we keep pressing and being angry, and what happens is it breaks and we lose control. And that's an excellent visual for our children to have. But what happens with a pipe cleaner? Pipe cleaners are very flexible and they can be twisted and moved around. So we can think of some flexible things to do. What else can we do when we can't give grandma a hug? What flexible things can we do? Can we maybe give an air hug or blow a kiss and have her catch it and put it on her cheek? Think of options and have them help think of options of what else can we do and come up with a different plan and be flexible. So those are some ideas that might help our children with handling some of their stress. And I do have some resources here. I did put on the resources that video that we just watched, and it's called Just Breathe. It's very, there's two others that are there. One is about older children and handling anxiety and depression. So you might want to look up Julie Bayer Salzman more. That Disney movie Inside Out, I know you might have seen it, watch it again. There's lots of explanation about feelings and acceptance there. My idea about the pipe cleaner and the popsicle stick came from Pinterest. If Pinterest is a wonderful resource, you can go in there and type in the search bar stress relievers for kids and you will see an abundance of ideas. And there's also a wonderful book out called A Handful of Quiet and by Thich Nhat Hanh. And it's a pebble meditation. It's using rocks that are smooth and it helps children relate into learning meditation. And I will stop sharing so we can go to our other person.
You're muted, Paige. Really quickly, I will say that we will list Kelly's resources in the comments below, and even the activities, we will snap pictures and put those in the comments so that everyone can use the directions and create those for the kids.
Thank you, and thank you again, Kelly. And then Caitlin, we are going to have Caitlin lead us in a seated yoga meditation. So thank you, Caitlin.
Yes, thank you, Paige. All right, and we're all seated already, so let's just begin by grounding ourselves with what yoga calls our sits bones, and just shifting around in our seat, maybe finding that comfortable middle spot, that even weight between our seat. You can begin by putting your hands on your knees and just grounding yourself, finding your in-breath in through your nose and out of your nose. And we'll just begin by taking this right hand up over our head and then taking it over to the left side of our head, just creating this neck release. And if it feels nice, you can extend your left arm out to the side. Breathing here. And we'll disconnect this right hand. Breathe the hand back to the knee and lift left arm. Circle it over to the right. And this right hand can stay at the knee or extend out to the side. Just continuing that in-breath through the nose, out of the nose. And then taking both hands, placing them back on the knees. And we'll begin circling around the body. Breathing here to open up the lower back, the hips. And then we'll circle the other way as well. Continuing your breath in through your nose, out of your nose. And come back to center, keeping those hands on the knees. We'll draw chin towards chest, rounding here for our angry cat. And then pressing the chest up, lifting the gaze up to the ceiling for our cow. And just cycling through, rounding your cat and cow. Really breathing in through the nose and out of the nose. And come back to that seated place, putting the hands on the hips. And we'll just move from right to left. Breathing here. And come back to center. We'll twist to the right, taking this right hand behind you, maybe gripping that back of your chair and moving the gaze to the right. We'll come back to center and twist to the left, taking this left hand to the back of your chair. Move back to center, lifting the arms over the head, collecting the palms at the top, and then just exhale the hands to the heart center. Breathe the hands up over the head, lift the gaze, lift the chest. And then we'll separate the palms as we fold forward, just releasing the hands, the head, the neck. We'll slowly rise back up, lifting the shoulders, rolling them back behind us, placing the hands at the knees. Just continuing that in-breath through your nose, out of your nose. Maybe at this time closing your eyes or maybe finding a soft gaze forward. I'm going to take you through a progressive muscle relaxation technique. And just first beginning to notice how your face feels at this moment. Maybe scanning in the face, determining where there's any tension or relaxation. And just simply noticing, are you gritting your teeth? Asking yourself, do you feel a softness around your eyes? And what else do you notice? And just scanning through the face, taking an inventory of what you notice. And just beginning to bring your attention to your eyebrows. Lifting your eyebrows up towards your hairline for a few moments and then releasing them. This time lowering your eyebrows towards your chin, holding temporarily, and then relaxing. Now scrunching and squeezing your eyes shut, and then letting that tension go. Just allowing any remaining tension to smooth away. Next, we'll bring our attention to our mouth, asking yourself, how does it feel right now? Begin pursing your lips tightly together, followed by totally relaxing and releasing tension. And press your tongue against the roof of your mouth and let it go. Gently moving your jaw up and down, all around, sideways. Now letting your jaw rest, relax, allowing your teeth to part slightly, softening the corners of your lips. You're invited now to take a big breath in through your nose and sigh it out. Take that in breath and sigh it out. Now take note of how your face feels. Notice the awareness, how the tension and tightness has decreased. And just bring your awareness back to your space. Slowly opening your eyes, becoming aware. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. That was so relaxing. Hopefully those watching can utilize that technique to just calm themselves, ground themselves, practicing this with your children. But it's definitely important to have practicing mindfulness and meditation is really important to just help us during those times where we're just feeling just scattered. But thank you everyone so much for this conversation. One thing we wanted to remind everyone, because this is an election year, is to go vote. And as parents, thinking about what that means to you and how that will affect you and your children. So just you know, utilizing your power, your voice to, you know, go to the polls and make sure that, you know, you're advocating for you and your children. Any closing remarks for you, Genevieve?
No, I just want to thank everybody for participating. Like I mentioned earlier, this is our second virtual community conversation. Sure, we will be coming up with some more conversations as we move forward. If you like it, share the video and be sure to let us know what else you want to hear about. Thank you guys for participating. We reached out and you guys answered, so we appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you. Have a good night,
Have a
everyone.
good one.
Bye-bye.